Hi, everybody, and welcome to the NBA edition of Proline. Just a couple of us to talk about pro hoops this week. John Cranton from Jim Feist Sports is here. I'm Dave Koken. Tell you about some good stuff we've got going on the upcoming weekend. John, let me start with you. Jim can sit back and relax. Boy, he got a little antsy at the end. He had a great pick with his college game of the year, up a ton, and then all of a sudden it got a little bit worrisome, but all's well that ends well. Another winner on Jim's big game of the year.
It sure was, yeah. Jim went 6-3-1 with all plays, basketball plays on Saturday. 3-1 with the top plays. He did lose with Cal, but he won with Vanderbilt as a high roller play. That was a blowout, 72-31 over Mississippi State. That was only -3. Georgetown, a 7-point dog, beat Syracuse straight up 57-46. And then the game you mentioned, the college game of the year on Xavier, 5-point dog up 39-26 at the half. Got a little dicey late, but still got the cover. Nice 3-1 day.
Anyway, let's get into some stuff here. And NBA betting trends that have worked out well. Got a few different teams we'll look at. And it doesn't mean they're going to hold up in the future, but it's certainly some ammunition to put in your handicapping arsenal on a daily basis. Right, John?
Exactly, yeah. It's trends that have to have meaning behind them, and then it's something that you can project in the future, things that have been going this season. One team would be the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, here's a team where you can look at three different things: road value, bounce-back situations, and as an underdog. Okay, the Spurs have as much as anything that one team can encompass. You want to talk about depth, defense, great offense, veteran leadership, and a great coaching staff that knows how to get the job done, knows how to motivate the players, and has a terrific track record. The Spurs have as good a mix of those key things as anything. Now, where does that help out? Well, first of all, with road play. I mean, when they're at home, they're going to be a big favorite all the time. But on the road, you can get a little bit of value, and this team is exceptional also in bounce-back spots. When they lose a game or don't fail to cover, they have the kind of pride and leadership that can help them bounce back. We saw that this week when they lost at Golden State. They lost an overtime game, and after the game, Tony Parker was saying, we want to end this road trip with a win. It was a long 9-game road trip. They only had one game left after that Golden State game. We want to make it a success. Well, they went to Phoenix the next game to end the road trip, won the game and covered, and that's common. When the Spurs are in a bounce-back situation, when they fail to cover a game, they're 28-11-2 against the spread the next game. You don't find them as an underdog very often. They've been a dog twice this season. Well, they covered both. And one of them was just recently against the LA Clippers. They were a 4-point dog. Blew them out 116-90. So there's enormous value with teams like the Clippers that have all this kind of talent on the road situations and bounce back and as an underdog, Dave.
Look at the Memphis Grizzlies. If there's one thing we know you're going to get out of a Lionel Hollins coach team, it's defense. That's his MO. And, boy, they're living up to that. This team is 43-19. I've got a bunch of stuff here, just interesting trends. When they've got a little rest, they're able to play that defense the way they want and get the tempo the way they want. 43-19, last 62 games playing on 1 day's rest to the under. They're second in points allowed this year, less than 90 a game. The current form showing a lot of unders, 88-82 against Toronto. In fact, they were back-to-back scores, 88-82. Toronto and Orlando. They had a 76-72 at Brooklyn. They're 22-7 to the under versus the Eastern Conference. They 28-1, 20 wins, 8 losses, 1 push. If you played the under, this is against teams with winning home records. So it's just a whole series of different indicators here that tell you that you want to look under when you're playing Memphis. Doesn't mean every game is going to go under. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen after they traded Rudy Gay, but they seem to have put that in the rearview mirror, even though I thought it was a stupid trade. And they're going to be a dangerous postseason team because of the way they play defense. I know last year, disappointing for them. They just series they really should have won against the Clippers. They blew 2 massive leads in games of that series. But I think you're going to see this team. Well, I don't know how far they'll go in the playoffs. I think whoever is up against them is going to have a tough time, and I would look for very low-scoring games. How about one more, John?
Chicago Bulls would be kind of a carbon copy of Memphis. I mean, the Bulls started off the season, no Derrick Rose. Well, they don't really have a lot of offensive options outside of him. Everything ran offensively through him. So it's no surprise what Tom Thibodeau has done. He's a guy who demands defense every single night. They prefer a slower pace, and we're seeing exactly all of that this season. They're 28th in the NBA in points scored, 3rd in points allowed, 5th in rebounds. So where does that help? Well, it helps with unders, and it helps on the road. I mean, when the Bulls go on the road and play a team with a winning percentage, greater than 60%, a good team when they're on the road, well, they slow the pace down. They play tough defense. They're 43 and 22 against the spread when they're on the road in that situation. And then the under games are just so common with this club. When they face a team with a winning record, they're on a run now, 6-0 under the total. What did we see when they play Oklahoma City last Sunday? Well, they got killed 102-72. The point is, it went under the total, and they don't have the kind of offensive power to keep up with a team like that, or if they get behind by 10 or 15 points, they're kind of dead. They played the Miami Heat, the defending champs, in a big marquee game recently. They held Miami to 86 points, but they still got blown out because they only had 67. Again, they slow the pace down against these good teams because that's the only way that they can compete. They went to Boston recently, too, lost the game 71-69. And you're not talking about games that just barely go under the total. These games are going way under. Bulls are currently on an 11-8 run under the total. Early in the season, they went 11 of 13 games under. And as long as Derrick Rose is out, there's no reason to see that to continue. A better team to look at under the total than over the total.
And I'll look at Orlando simply because somebody's got to. But actually, there's been money betting against this team. They have an occasional good game, but they're few and far between. I mean, the team's 15-41. They're basically equally bad at home or on the road, 9-20 at home, 6-21 on the road. It's just a mess. You knew this was coming after the Howard debacle last year, and they had no chance coming into this season. Actually, played hard early on, but as time has gone on, I think the energy's sapped from this team. They know they're just aren't capable of winning on a nightly basis, and I think you have to look to play against them, even though you're going to be looking at a lot of big number games. Look, they're 3-15, and again, this is with huge numbers in a lot of cases. 3-15 against the spread in their last 18 games. They've quit. There's just, I don't think there's any other way to put it. You might get a game every 2 weeks where they go out there and give it an honest effort. They need to play well early in the game and show a little energy and stay in there. But for the most part, they're just fade away. 7-20 against the spread their last 27 home games. Also, they don't play any defense, so the games are going over the total. 19-9-1 last 29 games to the over. It's ugly. It's just really ugly. And there's no reason to believe those trends will actually turn around at any point. I think those are, I'm not saying they'll maintain that percentage, but I think you'll probably cash some winners going against the Magic down the stretch, even though you'll have to give big points at times. All right, so let's look at the Thunder and the Nuggets. John, I'll kind of start with this one. The last time these teams met was mid-January, and Denver, they had a bad game. They were flat coming off a game the night before, and they just got bombed out in that game. It was over in a hurry. Huge lead. Basically, they got doubled in the first quarter of that game. And Oklahoma City never looked back. Just an absolute obliteration. Westbrook had a huge game. He had 32. The Thunder took their starters out before the fourth quarter. They're up 25 going into the fourth quarter, and they just, mailed it in at that point. They won by 20. Different story here. I think Denver's really going to be – they're going to have this game circled. And, I like George Karl had some quotes after the game. There's always those 3 or 4 or 5 games a year that you can't get it going, and tonight we couldn't get it going. And you're playing maybe the best team in basketball, is what George Karl said. I don't know if they're the best team, but they're in the mix, that's for sure. It was just a really bad game for Denver, but oftentimes that bad game one time will lead to a good game in the rematch. This one's in Denver. They're a good home team. I think the Nuggets are going to get this game in the win column. I don't think it'll be a slaughter. Oklahoma City's too good for that, but it's not going to have to be with the number, so being what it is. So I'm going to take the Denver Nuggets for the side in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of throw out most of that earlier meeting. That was the second of a back-to-back spot for Denver, and that was part of a stretch early in the season that Denver just had a ton of road games, the worst opening schedule for any team, and they've had a lot of home games of late, and that's coincided with their tremendous run. Could see a playoff preview here. It's going to be a fun game to watch. You know, we know what we're going to get out of Denver as far as style. This is a team that loves to run no matter where they are. You get the great guard play in Andre Miller and Ty Lawson. They're on a 19-7 run over the total. They're third in the NBA in points scored, third in assists. Give up some on the defensive end. They're 26 in points allowed. And being at home in the thin Denver air, they're going to run with anybody. What we don't know is how is Oklahoma City going to react? I mean, the team is number one in the NBA in scoring, but they're also kind of an underrated defensive team, 14th in points allowed. And when it comes to field goal shooting defense, this team is tops in the West. So they can, if you want to play a slow-down style and bang under the boards, they can do that, although they prefer to run with Westbrook and Durant. But I think this team is going to take the challenge from the young Denver team and say, yeah, we'll go ahead and run with you. I mean, this team has been on a 5-1 run over the total of late. Denver is home after playing 7 of 9 on the road, including that 5-game East Coast swing. And then look at some of the trends. When the Oklahoma City Thunder play the run-and-gun NBA Pacific Division, 15-6 over the total. And then Denver being on that 19-7 run. And the earlier game that you mentioned ended up going over the total of 209. So I think it's going to be a game where both teams and head coaches say, yep, we're going to run. Are you up for the challenge? And Oklahoma City will say, sure, we'll run with you. Very high-scoring game, Dave.
All right, well, it sounds like we've got a side in the total on this game then. Denver Nuggets in the over. John says over. I like Denver. I'll play yours if you play mine. How's that sound?
I'll take a shootout, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do a correlated parlay. How's that?
Sounds good. Take advantage. Make some money this weekend, hopefully, and then join us again next week to find out what's going on. And don't forget to check out the college basketball edition of Proline as well, available right here at the website. For John Creighton and Jim Feist, I'm Dave Koken. Thanks a lot for watching. Win this weekend, guys. See ya.